the New Japan Cup has concluded. We have a winner, and we have a main event for Sakura Genesis that looks to be a pretty intriguing one. We also have a lot of things set up for the rest of that card. Title matches up and down, a few feuds that have sort of come to a head a little bit here, or at least built up. So while maybe the New Japan Cup didn't provide a whole lot of classic moments or classic matches, it does seem to have set up Sakura Genesis, which I suppose is really what the New Japan Cup's for. We're going to talk about all that and get to this preview of what is on the way. But we had a really good show today. We're going to go over it step by step with Jeremy Finestone. I'm Stephen Conway. This is Speaking of Strong Style. Welcome, everyone, to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. We had all of those things this past week. So, Jeremy, we were talking briefly. We try not to talk too much before we go on the air, so it's fresh for when we are. But, New Japan Cup, like I said, I didn't see a whole lot of some very good matches, maybe no classics, and certainly no classic cards there. And in fact, some of it was a bit of a slog. But I think we have gotten to someplace fairly interesting.
Yeah, we got there. Finally.
Yeah.
What would you grade the New Japan Cup now that it's over? What grade would you give it?
Probably a B-. And the reason I say that is we had some good matches that saved it. There was a lot of very dull undercard work in this tournament. Yeah. And there was a lot of stuff that just felt like a slog. It was there was too much. We got the T-shirt version of a lot of guys on this tour, and I think that the effort was probably a C to a D if it was not a tournament match. And the tournament matches were mostly all right, and there were some that were very good. And so to me, it comes out to kind of a B-. But I have to say, again, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. That effort, man, if those 6-man tags underneath, you could try a lot harder, guys. You would do well to try a little bit harder because some of that stuff, they looked as boring as the matches ended up. I mean, it shows up. When they're bored, we're bored.
You could grab the phone book when you were in the ring, find the number for the arena, and then phone it in from there. And that's what they did. I agree with you. B- was about what I had. I was actually surprised. I thought you were going to go a little bit higher than that. But I was going to go B-. And I felt like the good was good. The great, although very little, was great.
Yeah.
And the not so great prevailed. And there was quite a bit of it.
We have a couple of people here. Colin is here with us today. Colin, it's good to see you. Yep, and you had the winner correct. We were victims of classic overthinking, I believe.
Yeah,
and Fernando Zayas is here. Hello, Fernando, and he graded today's show an A-. I'm going to agree with him there. Today was a terrific show. The finals
today and the 15th were fantastic shows, and there were a couple of matches on the shows around them that were good. But nothing, I don't know. We'll have to revisit it to just kind of talk them through. But my takeaway after, like, when I watched the Sunday show was like, that's it, huh? Like, that's what we're going with. And it's fine. You know, like, what I was telling you beforehand was I felt like we had a really strong show and run up to New Beginning in Osaka. The crowd was hot. Everything was good. We're running through, and then we just jump into the New Japan Cup. And I wanted to be like a House of Fire like show. And even like you had almost a blessing in which they doubled up those matches on the 8th because the 7th didn't work out because of the ring post. But like we were talking ourselves through like, oh, these are good, you know, but nothing had quite gotten there yet in terms of like really good stuff, minus like Gabe Kidd brawling like a madman throughout the majority of the beginning of the tournament. So, sure, fine. David Finlay wins. Just like we talked about for months before we decided that, you know, Yuya Uemura was our secret weapon and our ace in the hole. Which, by the way,
I picked Shingo, and I feel all right about that. He got to the semifinals, but he got to the final four. Finlay,
those were all like great picks. I just, for whatever reason, like thought that they were going to step on the gas with this guy, and he's got to work through some issues called Sonata for a while, which is underwhelming as a direction for him. It should have been beat his ass in the match and move on because you're Sonata and we know what you are now. But
it's kind of an elephant in the room for Uemura, because when Sonata turned on just 5 guys when Uemura was out hurt, they almost have to do it at least once.
Right.
And so they were kind of booked into a corner accidentally there. But that's kind of how it has to go, because he beat Taichi, and we figured that when Sonata beat Taichi, that the final challenge for Sonata in the turn is Uemura. But yeah, I mean, so he is kind of stuck there. And also, I think that they have other plans for, as it turns out.
Yes, we're going to get to all of that.
we talked ourselves out of David Finlay just because we overbooked the whole House of Torture. We got too excited about the House of Torture War Dogs feud and overbooked it. And in our heads, that Jeremy and I'm talking about. And so, but earlier in the year, we said, well, Finlay is the big favorite for the New Japan Cup. We should have listened to ourselves. But
I think my phrase was start the clock.
Yeah, and because I predicted, and I certainly stand by this, would have, even if he hadn't won the cup, that if David Finlay is both in the company and healthy, he's the champion in 2025 sometime.
Right.
I still believe that. I think he might win at Genesis. Maybe not, but might. The key to this is we lost sight that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and they want David Finlay to go to the top. New Japan Cup gets him right into the title picture in a perfectly legitimate way, and we overthought it.
Pretty much, which is fine. There is still an outside chance that he does not win that match.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's not guaranteed that he's going to win it. I have him as a favorite, but when we're going to talk about attendance, you can talk me out of it. And Fernando says something here that's worth mentioning. Shingo was great in every tournament match he had in this thing. He really had a very strong tournament. So did Zack, which is no surprise whatsoever. Finlay, again, another. There were some very strong performances, and I thought the guys that went to the Final Four put in the work, and really did well. So there were some very good performances in this one. My issue was with the undercards on those nights. For instance, those 2 shows. Sunday and Monday, the semifinals, where there was one semifinal match as the main event. The rest of those cards, man, you could be forgiven.
I don't even remember them. I figured you wrote it down if you had enough for a report of it, but I watched it and it was in like one eye out the other kind of thing.
Yeah, rough stuff. Not a lot of fun. And it kept me from watching the TJPW show from Sunday, which I'm really enjoying, and I have everything but the main event watched and all that kind of stuff. Believe me, that one was better than most of the undercard stuff we saw in New Japan this week. So, anyhow, and Fernando says he likes David winning the whole thing. Well, let's start breaking down the cup matches. Like I said, the undercard is not really worth talking about. There are a couple of themes that played through this tour that we will get to when we discuss today's show. And we are going to go through today's show one by one because each match had something interesting in it today. And if you're going to watch anything from this tournament, I say skip the semifinals except for the actual tournament matches. Just never mind the rest of the card and watch today's show. So we're going to go back a little bit here, and I want to make sure I get my notes. I want to get this right. So they were in the week started with Osaka. They were in a different building. As of course we talked about, Grand Sumo is currently in the Edion Arena. And Colin, I hope you speak to me again, because I have to tell you that I did secure tickets for May 12th for Grand Sumo at Sumo Hall when I'm going to be in Japan. So I will see night 2 of the tournament. Night 1, forget it, couldn't get in the building. Night 2, I could. And it's a good thing, because the withdrawals and the injuries start happening later in the tournament. So I think I should be able to see just about everybody.
Are you talking about the best of the Super Juniors?
Well, here's the thing, Jeremy. I don't want to be single, and there's a lot going on here. And
that's right. That's right. This is a family trip.
Yeah, well, Ginger and I are going over there, and the key is this is how much of a soldier she is. Like, we are already going to All Japan because I want to have that Champion Carnival card. So then I will have an N1, a G1, and a Champion Carnival. That's all my nerdness and all that stuff. We have an order in, a pre-order for Stardom tickets on the 11th because Ginger wants to see Stardom. She wants to see the Joshi. So we have an order in for that. Those tickets aren't on sale yet, but we'll see if I get them. And then, Colin definitely hates me now. I understand. So at this point now, we're going to sumo. We're going to try to go to a baseball game and possibly 2 wrestling shows. How much can I ask of this woman exactly? They're all this. And so for Super Juniors Plus, those tickets at Korakuen Hall are not on sale on buysumotickets.com, and they're not on sale outside Japan. They're hard to get. So they're not on the website the way the rest of it is. It's a maybe type of thing, and we're keeping options open, blah, blah, blah. But I might spare her from that. I'm not going to feel too bad about that because I did just go to Japan for Wrestle Kingdom, Wrestle Dynasty, and New Year's Dash. So I have seen a lot of New Japan this year in person. So, but yeah.
Not only are we smart about pro wrestling, we're wise about life.
Well, and she enjoys wrestling in person. Sure. She enjoys going to shows in person. She doesn't follow it on television or
does
watch
she enjoy it because you enjoy it, or does she enjoy it there's a joy in taking in what you enjoy?
She has not watched wrestling until she and I were really together for any length of it. So she went with me to a couple of cards. Wrestle Circus was a company here in Austin a few years ago that had like almost PWG level lineups. This guy just threw out a bunch of money and got some really good wrestlers in there. So she was like, yeah, I'll go, and enjoyed seeing it live. And then we would see New Japan when they would come to Texas, and she enjoyed it. Like watching it live, what she doesn't care for is following the story week to week. It's just not her thing. And on television, it's just not as exciting to her to watch on. So I curate. Like there's something like, you got to see this match. There's one match you really got to see, and she will sit and enjoy it. Sure. But it's not a week-to-week thing for her. So going to Korakuen Hall and watching a show, she's kind of in for it. Cool, because we went to Noah last time we were there, and she liked it. Like it's exciting live. You feel the impact. The bumps, hit you in the chest a little bit, and so that she's down with. But I don't want to overdo it, and like more than a couple of shows in a 2-week trip is a lot to ask of somebody who's not a fan. And there are other things we need to get done there that aren't wrestling related.
I think that's the smart play.
War Hero's here. Hi, War Hero. I'm glad you're here. So I don't mean to make this whole thing about me, but that's what we're planning on the trip. Is we're trying to get to 2 shows. She enjoys seeing the sumo live too, because what's more Japanese than that, right? Like if we do that and a tea ceremony in Kyoto, I mean, come on, which is the plan. And then I want to see a Japanese League baseball game. I would rather do that than catch a 4th New Japan show of the year. To do something I've never done, which is a Japanese League game. So I'm wearing my jersey because it's opening week for my team, the Chicago Cubs.
You got your kettle chip, right?
Yeah, and we also up at 5:00 in the morning on both Tuesday and Wednesday, so I could watch them lose to the Dodgers both games.
How about that? Okay, I know they're the Dodgers, but how about that Shohei homer that dinged off the top of the Tokyo Dome?
Yeah, Jeffrey Mayer made the trip all the way to Japan to interfere in that one. Yeah, that wasn't a home run. Wasn't a home run. Fernando, that's awesome for a couple who love wrestling together. I always had to lie to my girlfriends about watching wrestling. Fernando says, I get it. Yeah, she's very patient with me because I watch a lot. Because when I don't watch New Japan, I watch Noah, I watch Stardom, I watch some TJPW, Sendai Girls, I watch CMLL. So she's a patient woman.
My wife too is very understanding. She's sending me off on Easter weekend to go work for the F4W crew.
What is this, Fernando? What? Go White Sox. Oh,
betrayal.
God. Oh my gosh, what the heck? He and Chris Samsa, both White Sox. We got to find some Cub fans around here. But yeah, and Colin mentioned, I'm going to do a tea ceremony. Yeah, that's the goal to schedule one of those in Kyoto and do the whole experience.
How much longer do you think we can stall from talking about TJP?
No longer. We're 15 minutes in. We need to get to the New Japan Cup here.
Moving on.
All right. I don't want to make this show all about me. We got to talk about the wrestling. So TJP, and Drilla Maloney. TJPW is a Joshi promotion that just had a big show.
You're on
This
fire.
match was man, too much caffeine. Good match, all the big moves. It had a decent pace to it, but in the end, it was a drill-a-killer finish. TJP after this match, I thought this was interesting, Jeremy. He took a very long look at that lion mark in the ring. He was on his knees there and kind of gave it a little touch. He was on the rest of the tour. He was the surprise opponent for El Phantasmo in the Open Challenge for the TV title, but this, what we saw here, felt like him kind of saying a bit of a goodbye. So it was strange there. I don't know if you caught that. But the other thing I noticed about this, Jeremy, was Drilla Maloney absolutely baby-facing on the way out of this match. He was taking pictures with kids. He was waving to fans. He was hugging people. I mean, he picked up a child and took him over the rail and let the mom take pictures of him with the, he could not have been a bigger baby face considering he's a war dog there. We're supposed to be a little bit of a tweener in there, but he was baby facing and TJP seemed to be saying goodbye, but TJP was on the rest of the tour. So who the hell knows?
I mean, it could just be that, they're not at that area as much as they want to be and they're going for it. But this whole war dogs are baby faces only around shittier people, just like amuses me to no end because you still got like the top guy being like this total jerk. And, like David Finlay at the top and then everyone else kind of, well, it's just Drilla and Gabe right now, really, that are kind of turning babyface. Everyone else is kind of ambiguous. They're kind of going along with the program, as long as there are things. But it's really Drilla and Gabe that are leading this babyface charge. You have Finlay doing his own thing. But I wonder if Finlay gonna go with the rest of the dogs or are the dogs gonna go with Finlay?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And this is going to take a while to play out because there are a lot of chapters to go in that story.
Right.
But the fans are taking to Kid and Maloney as babyfaces. Mm-hmm. Like the fans are on board with this if they want to do it. And if they want to have them break the fans' hearts, that's a way to go. But they are enjoying Drilla and Gabe beating up people they don't like instead of people they do like, which is one of the best ways to turn somebody babyface. It doesn't always have to be some big moment of contrition. There could just be a thing where the badasses are beating up people we hate instead of the people we love. And it works.
You just slowly change the dynamic of who's opposite them, and all of a sudden the fans are like, "Oh, I can cheer you now."
Yeah. I mean, a lot of heels have turned that way. Just
absolutely.
Anyway, and Fernando says, "I hope it wasn't his farewell match." He's a good wrestler, and we don't know. He hinted at it around Wrestle Kingdom time, where he said he was going to be here less. And, that was, but, plans change. Who knows? Maybe New Japan came back and said, we need you. We got a story in mind for you. We don't know. But it felt like he was saying goodbye here, but there was none of that. You could read
into a lot about what happened in the final today and kind of support that if you wanted to, but I'm not necessarily sure that was the intentionality of it.
Yeah. All right. The other tournament match was Tetsuya Naito and Jeff Cobb. Lots of Cobb on offense here in this match. He got a bit more out of Naito than most do. It was still not 100% Naito because 100% Naito can only come out every once in a while, and even then it's not what it used to be, right? But he got more out of him than usual. It was a match where Cobb actually did the Combinacion Cabron, which is funny because Naito can no longer do it. He can't get himself over the top rope like that. But Cobb can, that guy's just ridiculous. And, the power moves, he hit the satellite DDT on Cobb, all that stuff. It ended up just being a Tour of the Islands finish, and it got Naito out of the tournament. And I got to say, I think the match quality later in the tournament was better with Naito on the undercard. You can kind of get away with Naito right now in those trios matches underneath. Fans just want to see him more than they want to see him wrestle, if that makes sense. You kind of want to see Naito for a little while. You don't necessarily want to see him struggle through a 20-minute match. So
a little goes a long way.
Probably the right call. And like Fernando says here, Father Time is undefeated. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're seeing is that the guy just beat the hell out of himself for so long, and it's come home to roost.
TikTok. They know how to hide it, and a little goes a long way.
That was it for that.
Okay. One more, or was this on that show as well? Bolton and Shingo?
No, that one. Yeah, that was there too. So, by the way, the attendance in Osaka at this other gym was about 1,000 people. That's about the same as last year. Most of the crowds we saw this week were either the same or better than the year before. So again, signs pointing up. Yeah, Bacon mentions it's why some people decide to retire. Well, I think we're seeing that with Tanahashi, where he's like, my knees just don't want to do this anymore. We had Shingo, Takagi, and Bolton, and this one was another good one. I mean, we have Shingo here as one of the best workers in the world. Bolton Oleg, who is, or Oleg Bolton, whichever nomenclature system we want to use for that, the Japanese or American or Western style. He is a star in the making, clearly, still learning how to work a longer match. Shingo's an excellent guy to do that with, because Shingo can guide you through this thing. It had its appropriately dramatic moments, and what we are seeing is a new finishing move for Shingo that we would get to in the Drilla Maloney match, as he is moving away from Last of the Dragon as his finisher. Gets it on Bolton and wins it. But Bolton's not quite ready to move on in a tournament like this. He's just not there as a worker quite yet. But steps are being made. This guy is going to be a star.
Yeah, my confidence in Bolton is that I've seen him do it with different guys. You know, when like there's like one guy that makes a guy look amazing, like say Takeshita made help Bolton look really, really good. You know, like when Bolton starts to look good with Shingo and a couple of these other guys, it's real. You know, he's legit. And I'm enjoying the validation of seeing a guy that basically came out of nowhere and is taking New Japan Pro Wrestling by storm. And
it came out of the amateur program that
1,000%. Like we heard of him at like 3 years ago, maybe, and he's just
There have been a lot of guys over the years, as Jeremy kind of locks up, still struggling with his internet connection there, so we'll hopefully get him back in a moment. But Bolton is one of a long line of guys who have been billed as somebody who was an Olympic hopeful that only didn't get there because of injury and things. But in Oleg's case, it's actually true. They said that about a lot of guys in wrestling. So, he would have been in the Olympics if it weren't for an injury there that kept him out when the guy wasn't actually anywhere close. Bolton was very close, and a knee injury probably kept him out of those Olympics there in Tokyo, unfortunately for him. But again, didn't want to wait another 4 years, or and joined the New Japan Pro system. So there we got Jeremy back, I think.
I'm hoping.
Yep, there you go. All right, so we just talked about Bolton.
What the hell?
But like Fernando said, he's the best worker in New Japan right now. I think Shingo is one of the very best in the world. Just as far right now, he just seems to have it all together. Shingo.
He operates at a high level every night. Like he's super consistent, and he is top of the mid card, low main event. You know what I mean? Like he's almost like a gatekeeper guy that they don't put him in the main event, but he's always one of those guys that you can at any point put him there, and then they do, and he's so good he delivers.
Yep, absolutely. And and now, so we move on to Aichi on Saturday the 15th, and this was at Dolphins Arena. As it turns out, Jeremy, they're going to stop using Dolphins Arena later this year. This is one of the classic buildings in New Japan's history. This building's been around,
right?
Been around for a very, very long time. And as it turns out, they're opening up a new gym, a nicer one with more bells and whistles and things down the road a little ways. So Dolphins Arena going to pass by us at the summertime, I think. This was not the last show, but it's coming up on that. And
well, they got a great show to start wrapping it up with.
Yeah, we had Drilla Maloney and Shingo Takagi, and this one was terrific. And by the way, the crowd for this one, 2,752. So 1,750 last year, so 1,000 up. Of course, there's a world title match on the show too, and everyone, Goto Mania is going wild. But they have 3,200 for the G1, so this is almost G1 level crowd. Not quite, but that's healthy, really, considering it's New Japan Cup, which is not as big of an event as G1. And really good with Drilla and Shingo. This tournament was good for Drilla Maloney. I think it legitimized him as a heavyweight. I didn't have any doubts about it, but I think for the fans, they saw him in a couple of really good matches. Last of the Dragon for 2. Did not finish Drilla Maloney with Last of the Dragon. His new move is a Burning Dragon, is called. It's more of a Death Valley Driver style move, and that won the match for him. So a couple of guys there with new finishers.
I thought Drilla over-delivered. I didn't mean to make that sound like a simile or anything like that, but like he did a great job. It was almost chalk booking at this point with like Drilla beating Shingo last month at New Beginning in Osaka, that you're going to get that win back in relatively short form. And it would have been brave to have Drilla go forward another part of the bracket, but this was the right call. And better days ahead for both guys, I think.
I'm about to prove that this show is live here. Jeremy, can you talk about the next match for just a moment? I'm going to duck out of the studio and restart my microphone because I'm having technical problems too.
That sounds great.
I will be right back.
Okay. Well, we had Shota Umino and Jeff Cobb. So at this point in the entire process, the match here seemed pretty interesting to me because it was all about trying to get Shota Umino over. This entire tournament has been trying to get Shota Umino over. And even Jeff Cobb in this tournament, his job was to get Shota Umino over. Jeff Cobb at the time was having a great time clowning everybody in the world about his WWE potential. And it got a lot of attention. It got a lot of fun. It had a really great time for everyone. So then we got to this match. I'm bringing Steven back on. I'm going to
okay.
on.
I hope I sound better now. I think I sound better now. We rebooted the microphone.
I did notice your microphone earlier, but it was like, we're live, pal. Here we go.
Sorry about that, everybody.
I was basically just giving my thoughts on the backstory of Shota and Jeff, and basically was going to get to the point of letting you explain what happened in the match. Even though Jeff's job was to put him over, I'm not 100% sure that Shota is as over as he should be going into and coming out of this match. So why don't we go for the rundown that you've got, and we'll go from there.
Well, it had a really good finish to it. There was a running knee, and it was just a thing where, again, we got all the power moves. Umino showed off his power as well, and Cobb helped him by going up for stuff. Umino hit some lifts and some power moves on Cobb. You notice, like, Shota's built. He's really...
he's added a lot of muscle mass.
He's bulked up quite a bit, and he showed it off here a little bit in this one. But he hit the running knee in the second chapter to win. I thought that it built well down the stretch, and I thought that overall it was a pretty good match between the two. As far as Umino being over, I think people are understandably, and perhaps that's intentional on behalf of the company, wondering, do we have a baby face here or not? If I cheer for this guy, am I going to look like an idiot? I think they want people to kind of feel that way. I think they want people to wonder, because he's just not saying anything. He's not giving any indications. And we're going to get to that after the Finlay match. So I agree that they are playing it coy as to what we really have with Umino, other than somebody who is trying to rebuild himself some way. So in this case, though, the running knee has become an effective weapon for him.
It is looking good.
Yeah, and the second chapter, it's a Northern Lights bomb. Let's just say that. It's a Northern Lights bomb. He hits it well, and he hit it on a very big man. So it looked impressive enough, and he got the victory.
Getting a new finisher and having the new image, it's a lot. And I think at Sakura Genesis, we are going to probably have some decisions being made about this giant Hontai conglomeration and whether it's necessarily all going to be Hontai going forward. There's a lot of people there, and Shota doesn't necessarily feel like he fits in Hontai right now, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it's which is a strange place to be, because it seems like everybody's in Hontai. I think I'm in Hontai now, but we'll get to all that as
I think if you buy a ticket to New Japan, you're just an honorary member of Hontai.
Nice. Up next, we had David Finlay and Yuya Uemura. Now, boy, this was the match of the tournament for a whole half hour. And what I mean by this was really, really good. It was very good throughout. the battle for the deadbolt suplex in this match was excellent because, of course, that's Uemura's move. And Uemura was desperately trying to land it. Finlay was desperate to avoid it. And it puts the move over as a kill shot. And they protected it really well. He almost always, I think he has almost always won with it. I'm trying to think of a time someone's kicked out a deadbolt. It's probably happened once, but not often. And so Finlay really put it over by panicking basically every time Uemura tried to get it in. That gets a move over. That's nice work. And but in the end, he did hit Oblivion and Overkill to win it. This was a terrific match, though, between two guys I think are partially leading this next generation, along with others. Sonata then came out, and we're going to talk about Sonata when we get to his match today, because he did have some twists and turns through this tour. He walked right past Finlay, didn't acknowledge him, even though they're both supposed to be war dogs. Finlay glared at him for reasons we'll get into, because he had a reason to glare at him a little bit. Then he just walked into the ring, gave Uemura a deadfall. He's just like, screw this guy. It was just a classic heel.
I don't care about you. I care about this guy.
Yeah. And so that built up something that would pay off, will pay off, I believe, probably at Genesis or wherever. But yeah, David Finlay, terrific match. And Uemura looked good. It was, I enjoyed this one. And Benkin needs a rebel. Needs a rebel. The world needs a rebel.
This is one of the better matches of the tournament. This is one of the better nights of the tournament. All the singles matches, frankly speaking, were exceeded my expectations. Like we talked about earlier, we were talking David Finlay was a likely winner of the Cup. There were just, an idea that New Japan would spice things up and make things a little more exciting by, getting to that destination, but having a couple of twists and turns. And it just wasn't that time in the New Japan, bibliography of the year, I guess you would say. This was more academic, like we're setting up the pieces on the chessboard. We're getting everything ready, and this isn't delivery of things that you've been wanting to see for a while. And that was my own personal expectation. Yuya, Finlay, and Shota were always like final three people for me. Finlay going over Yuya right here made perfect sense. Here we are.
So, like I said, to me anyway, that match was the best one of the tournament thus far, and it was until the next match happened. So, which is that, again, better than anything we had seen up until that point. But Zack, Sabre, and Taichi put together something really cool. Of course, these two were in Suzuki-gun together, and it goes back even further than that. And because when Suzuki-gun was quote unquote kicked out of New Japan and went over to Noah, and what was actually happening is, they worked out a deal with Noah to take Suzuki-gun in as top heels, and Geto and Jado were booking New Japan together, and Jado went over to book Noah because Noah was kind of on its rear end for a little while there. Brought over Suzuki-gun as the new, fresh top heels for Noah, and Taichi was part of that. Poor Zack was not, and he was in Noah and one of the foreigners in Noah, and was tormented by Suzuki-gun for a while before he ended up turning and joining up with them. So they go even back beyond Zack's membership in Suzuki-gun. They were antagonists before they were partners. And of course, they were an excellent tag team, the Dangerous Techers. And so there's a lot of history here. They hadn't really met a whole lot since Suzuki-gun disbanded. Taichi was emotional from the opening bell. He does drama really well, doesn't he? Like Taichi's when he needs to
emote.
Oh, yeah, he's so good at it. And so he's almost in tears before the match starts. Match goes on, of course, the Zack Sabre Jr. match. It's terrific with it using a lot of the grappling on the ground, some forearms and an uppercut exchanges, but most of it's just really good technical wrestling. Taichi brings out his stretch plum, his finishing move that he got from Toshiaki Kawada at the 15-minute mark, and that was a really good sequence with Zack trying to escape. The other thing that Zack has developed is the sudden Zack driver, where a guy just runs at Zack, and Zack suddenly just picks the guy up, scoops him up, and hits a very quick driver. No real theatrical setup to it. And it's very effective because it can stop a guy in his tracks when he is really on offense high against Jack. You know, a guy's just rocking and rolling against Zack. Zack's bumping. Then the guy just runs in, takes a Zack driver. Both guys are down.
It's almost like you should call it the lowercase Zack driver.
A little bit, but it's almost like a home run in a baseball game where he can kind of turn the whole thing around. You know, like you're not expecting it. And it worked really well here. It's a good storytelling tool. And once they got to the big moves, it brought it up a whole other notch. Zack hit a Gotch-style pile driver just to make sure we got the Suzuki reference. Taichi hit a Black Mephisto suddenly out of an armbar head scissors combo, which looked really good. Fans were kind of feeling the upset at this point. I think they thought Taichi was going to win this thing. And then Taichi had used a Goto clutch early in the match. And of course, Taichi has used that to win a lot of matches. Later on, though, Zack got out, and then Zack put it on Taichi and won with the Goto clutch, which is a nice little bit of irony right there. And immediately after the match, they were hugging. Clear that these two are close. And best match of the tournament. And again, he does heartache so well. Taichi does. Right. You know, he can look devastated. And Tam Nakano does this for Stardom really well, where she just like if Tam is turned on or you know, somebody stabs her in the back or she loses a member or something like that, she's great at those highly dramatic, emotionally devastated acting type of stuff. And Taichi's excellent in these moments too, when he lets the emotions out. And so this was just very effective, really good wrestling match. I enjoyed it.
It's almost as if New Japan, knowing that Zack is going to be a little bummed that he lost the IWGP title, like, oh, no, don't worry about it. Next couple matches, you're going to be wrestling guys that you'll love to wrestle, that you wouldn't get an opportunity otherwise. And hopefully that'll heal the wound a little bit. And then, you know, like he had a great time wrestling Oiwa. You know, it looked like he had a blast wrestling Taichi. He then gets to wrestle, you know, Finlay up next. And when we get to that one, man, well, stuff to talk about.
After that, we had the IWGP World Heavyweight title match, Hirooki Goto and Yuji Nagata. So Nagata has a history in Dolphins Arena. There's he's had some failures in that building, to be fair, but some key moments in his career. And here he was at Dolphins Arena again with Goto. Good psychology in the match. Kojima and Nagata's son were with him. His son is an under 15 medalist in the All Asian Games or something similar to that. So another amateur wrestling prodigy there, as Yuji was. It never really felt like the title was in jeopardy, but the match was well done. Goto won with the GTR. Yuji Nagata, like I said, his movements are a little stiff. He's getting up there for sure. But there were Nagata chances he left. A lot of good feelings from the fans who understood that this was it. This is the last time Yuji's going to be challenging for anything. He does it against the guy that used to be his attendant, Hirooki Goto. It was a nicely done moment there for Nagata to go out. And then afterwards, he had words and backstage comments with his son talking about how, you know, he was, you know, sorry he couldn't win it for him, but, you know, he wanted to show perseverance for his son and tried to win it one more time for him, that type of thing. But Goto wasn't going to lose this match. Everyone kind of knew it wasn't. So it didn't have the heat that a dramatic world title match would have, but the fans there did seem to enjoy the chance to see Nagata off with good feelings and gave him a healthy ovation when he left.
The environment in the evening was draped in the weight of the history of these two men. You know, like these were old warriors, both of them, and their meeting and the weight of their own history leading up to this moment is what catapulted the match from ordinary to extraordinary, I suppose. You know, like nothing particularly remarkable other than the auras of these two men and everything that they've been to up to this point. The video package they put together, tremendous. The fan reaction to them was so incredibly strong that you just felt like you were in a big deal match. And like I said, it wasn't bad. Wasn't like a match of the year, but the energy of it made it so much more than what it was.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep an eye on his son too. That kid's a unit. he looked like a world-class wrestler, and I guess he's going to be wrestling at the under 17s next. So, yeah, it looks like another hell of an athlete in the Nagata family.
Huge Nagata.
Yeah, he's a big kid. Yeah,
I'm proud of that
yeah,
one. I'm sorry.
there you
I'm
go.
proud of that one.
So the semifinals. All right, well, we're going to talk about the two semifinal matches because there's nothing else to speak of in there. So we're in Shizuoka on that one. That's was on Sunday, the 16th, and that attendance was 856. Last year it was over 1,000. So, but it was up from the tag league one. But I can't imagine these 856 felt too good about the card overall. What they did get to see was Zack Sabre Jr. versus David Finlay, and like I mentioned, both these guys had really good tournaments, good performances in them. A lot of big moves, very good pin scramble in there. And, you know, with Zack, when he gets into those scrambles where it's kicking in and out of things and inside cradles and bridges and all that kind of stuff, it really could end at any time. So that's very dramatic. Finlay finally reversed the Zack driver into overkill and got the win.
Such a flash finish.
It was, but it made sense because that overkill is such a strong move there, and he did it well. Zack took it well. It looked like a finishing move, but real good, and it sent David Finlay into the finals.
This was better than I thought it was going to be. The tone of the match was something that I kind of expected. There was a sense of brutality to Zack Sabre Jr. that I don't normally see in his matches because he had to rise to beat that, but he just simply could not go to the level that Finlay did. I was very much like, whoa, that finish came out of nowhere because, you know, Zack jumped off the rope trying to pull the Zack driver and it got moved into the overkill, but the overkill wasn't fully executed upwards, and it was almost like, you know, like a flash overkill that really like well done when you re-examine it. But at the time it was just like, oh, what? And got to give him credit for that because that was an incredibly creative finish. And I hope that this is not the last time these two meet in 2025.
All right. So the other semifinal, Shizuoka is the only one of this tour that was down significantly from last year. It just didn't do as well. I had over 1,100 last year. This one was 856. But the other one, Fukushima, was down just a little bit, basically the same. But both of those shows, Shizuoka and Fukushima, were up from World Tag League shows. So again, momentum heading in a bit of a right direction there. Excuse me. Shota Umino, Shingo Takagi. That was in Fukushima. And go ahead and talk a little bit about this, please.
Okay, so we had the Shota Umino and Shingo Takagi match. This was the last of the matches that we had, and it was honestly a pretty split crowd going into it with the Shota Umino and Shingo Takagi factions. I will say there is a difference to the crowd now that Shota Umino is coming back out through the regular stage instead of coming out through the audience.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's a good or a bad thing, and I'm not even sure if the crowd knows how to react to it either.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and it's a thing where I just feel they're being cautious with them because I think they might. They feel like they might know,
right?
Yeah, and that's the point.
Another
swig
of water. I'll keep talking.
No, he's not supposed to. He's not giving out the friendship bracelets anymore. He's not hugging and taking pictures. Nope. So there isn't that, oh, hey, it's Uncle Shota, you know, when he comes through, like, I've got a kid here. Maybe if I hold up the kid, I'll get it up close and personal with a wrestler. He just kind of stalks to the ring, looks pissed off. And,
you know what he's not doing?
What?
Not continually shaving his head.
No, it's growing out a little bit, isn't it? Yeah, it is growing out a little bit. But you only shave it once as a statement. But yeah, so this one, Shingo has been watching a lot of Jinsai Shinzaki videos lately. Because I have noticed he's been working some of that stuff into his offense. If you don't know, that was the guy. He was Hakushi in WWF for a little while in the 90s. But Jinsei Shinzaki, terrific wrestler from that era. And it's clear that Shingo has gone back and watched some YouTube compilations because he started to do some of the mannerisms and some of his moves. I don't think he's going to be doing the springboard dive over the top. He did a thing where he would basically do a cartwheel and then a backflip over the top rope as his move, like a backwards tope con hilo type of thing.
And you don't think Shingo can do this?
Don't think Shingo's going to do that one, but there are a few other things he can do.
You doubt Shingo?
I doubt he can do that. Umino hit some big pumping bombers in this one, like with stiff ones too. Like he laid it in. safely, but I mean, they look strong. And once again, we got the knee in the second chapter. They're really working hard to get that second chapter over. Fans applauded, but there was some disappointment in the crowd when Shingo lost this.
Mm-hmm.
There was a bit of a deflation. We're like, I think they were hoping for Shingo to win, but the fans were behind him. And then afterwards,
I'm going to say this. I will say it was one of those things that I don't think anyone expected Shota Umino to win this tournament. So him going to the finals was like, oh, I feel like we already know who's going to win it. Had Shingo gone to the finals, it wouldn't have been quite so, oh, we know who's going to win this tournament.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And by the way, as Colin mentions here, Shinzaki right now is signed to Michinoku Pro Wrestling, and he is also the president of Michinoku Pro. Yeah, there you go. So but he's a terrific wrestler. But yeah, so that was the thing. Yeah, it was more of a Shingo crowd. But afterwards, we got the stare down with Finlay, with Umino right there. He still won't say much. He said a couple of words, but they were very brief, and it was just, "I'm going to beat you," were the words. And so nothing. Again, no.
Man, a few words.
Man, a few. Up next, we had off to Thursday the 20th. So
today.
Then yeah, that's today. So we had the show today, and it was in Niigata, at Aore Nagaoka, the building there, and drew 3,200 to this one. That's a healthy crowd, and that is up from 2024, about the same as 2023. So that was a good group here in Niigata, and a good crowd. They were into things. So this was a fairly boisterous crowd. Ishii and Yano led it off, facing Katsuya Murashima and Yoshihashi. So Murashima was given a lot here, especially by Ishii, and I thought it was really good. He got 2 really good near falls on Ishii. Of course, Ishii's signature in his matches, one of his signatures, is that he does really good near falls. There are just moments in the Ishii match where you're just sure he's not going to kick out, and yet he manages barely. Some exciting slap forearm sequences between the two. Murashima has come a long way, I think, Jeremy. I think this
he was really motivated in this match.
Yeah,
he was working.
He was. So I don't know how far away his excursion is. Probably still a ways to go yet. But I did notice that this past week, Oscar Loibe and Yuto Nakashima dropped both sets of tag team titles that they've been holding in the UK.
This has been brought to my attention.
So perhaps they're on the way back, but no official word on that. But it does seem odd that in 1 week you would drop both sets of your titles. But that could be a coincidence. Might not be. Who knows? But of the current group of young lions, clearly Yasuda and Nagai are not ready yet. They've barely been adding to They barely added anything to their moveset. They're still just getting started. Shomakato, not quite there. I would say that probably the one who's furthest ahead and the one most likely to go off on excursion is going to be Murashima, but still probably not quite ready yet. But he's getting there.
Can't disagree with any of that. He looked great. This was, so many people in Hontai. This was essentially a Hontai interfactional match. Almost an exhibition because they're all on the same team now, Stephen.
There's a lot of that.
We'll be getting more into that as the show moves forward tonight.
Indeed so. So we had that one to lead off. That was kind of our dark match there. Chris Charlton came down for the show, even though it was a Thursday. He was in Niigata with Walker. And then we had the first match on the main card, so to speak, was Phantasmo's Open Challenge. Great Okan and TJP came out together. Those are the two guys that had beaten him over the course of the tournament. So TJP got a win in a tag team match, one of those undercard matches, and Okan defeated Phantasmo in the tournament itself. So they came out together. Okan then opened the ropes for TJP, and they had a pretty good match. And these two are, highly capable wrestlers. So the story was ELP selling his shoulder as if it were legitimately hurt. And what I mean by that is he played it like he couldn't use it at all, not like he was in pain and gutting through it, but almost like, are we going to have to stop this match because the guy hurt himself? That was how ELP was selling it. It was effective because then they went to some quick moves and ELP got a very fast crucifix to win the thing, almost selling like they had to go home early, so to speak. Then Okan, who sat down at the Japanese commentary desk, came in the ring and attacked poor ELP, gave him a couple of the TTDs. The plan apparently was for TJP to wear Phantasmo down for Great Okan, and they will have the next shot at El Phantasmo. I'd imagine it'll probably be on one of the Genesis shows, perhaps, but that's coming.
Did you do the English or Japanese commentary?
I was on English commentary for this one because Chris was there and I wanted to get some things down. I've been watching a lot of Japanese commentary lately to try to help me learn the language.
The Chris mentioned that he saw like TJP give Great Okan like the nod after the match, like, "Hey, go for it." And
there's a lot of those little sly nods these days. We saw one on now The Rock does one. Now everybody's got to do it.
So, if you were to write someone off of New Japan for a while without getting a beat down, that's kind of how you do it, right? You know, I lost the match. Here you go, buddy. This is your shot. Like, I'm the flag bearer. I come in and then basically like cede the title to him. Like, you go after him. Like, this is your time now, this kind of thing. And it's like, TJP takes off. Like, that's fine. Like, I don't.
Yeah, and the dynamic between Okan and TJP was interesting because we went through this whole thing where TJP declared himself the captain of United Empire, but this was clearly Okan calling the shots. I mean, he just grabs the microphone and says, "Well done, TJP." Like he was doing Okan's bidding. Yeah. So not very captain-like in that respect there, I suppose. But who knows? We'll see. He might be in Super Juniors, so we might be talking about nothing here. So
I would not be surprised if Great Okan renamed United Empire into like his United Empire, like the Empire of Khan kind of thing. Ooh. And it just becomes a bunch of guys under him.
All hail.
Because, you know, factional warfare is coming. Like we've got one really big faction and then like 5 sub factions, like 5 other small factions. It's getting wild.
Next was a singles match between Hiroshi Tanahashi and Satoshi Kojima. So, again, kept quick, kept simple, which was very smart. And it was basically them playing the hits. This was the closest thing to a jukebox match you're ever going to see. If you just wanted to program in all the moves you want to see these guys do, that's what they did in these matches. All the signatures were there. And the fans were into Kojima. They were not booing Tanahashi by any stretch, but the fans were into it, and they liked Kojima in this. Of that generation, the dads, I would say that including Tanahashi and Naito, the Kojima is probably the best worker of that bunch still. His body
the healthiest.
He's broken down the least, right?
Yeah.
Which is amazing because he and Tenzan did not go easy on each other for about 10 years straight.
Do you think him or Suzuki is in better shape?
Oh, Suzuki's not in New Japan, so I saved my own butt right there, didn't I? Because Suzuki's still in pretty good shape as well. But of the guys in that age group, those are the two.
Those are two hanging on.
The guys that are still in New Japan, Kojima can still wrestle a really good match here. But anyway, we got Aces High. Walker, we got to learn that one. Aces High. When the guy's standing, it's Aces High. Then it's High Fly Flow. High Fly Flow is when he's down on the mat. But he hit Aces High, then High Fly Flow. Kept it simple. It was fine. They bowed to each other afterwards, 100% respect. And it was another one of those matches where the crowd wasn't against Tanahashi, but they liked seeing Kojima in this spot.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a nostalgia run that
the
audiences are knowing that they're not going to see these, like this match is one of the last times you're ever going to see it. And there's kind of a, like, I want to be here for that kind of thing. They know that it's not going to make history, but it's a part of history.
For me, Satoshi Kojima was he was not a young lion, but he was one of the young stars that were starting to come up and get in with the main event guys when I started watching New Japan, which would have been in the early 90s, mid 90s. And Kojima was that generation and perception level just below the Muto, Chono, Hashimoto group. Those were the top dogs, and so was Riki Choshu then, who was also booking and was one of the top stars. And below that, there were other guys, Yamazaki and I'm trying to think of, Kensuke Sasaki was not quite at that level, and Kojima was there, but he was this young guy who had all this potential and looked like a big upside. So seeing him rise all the way to be a Grand Slam champion, he's won all 3 major titles, all 3 major tournaments. Knowing that someday it's going to wind down, of all of these guys, Kojima is going to be the toughest one for me, just because I basically watched his entire career. I really have a lot of respect for the guy, and I think he worked this match well.
How do you think his retirement is going to be? Do you think it could be a quiet one, or do you think there's going to be a little bit of celebration to it?
Oh, I think there's going to be a celebration to it. I don't think it's going to be a year-long goodbye, because he's not the level of Tanahashi. I have to admit, I admit that. He's
a personal favorite isn't a universal favorite. I get what you're saying.
Correct. And so I understand that maybe a year-long thing isn't going to be there, but I do think he's going to pick a building and an event and just say this is going to be the last ride for Satoshi Kojima, and it's going to be a tough one for me.
It'll be a tough one for a few people, not just yourself.
6-man tag match was next, and we had Bad Luck Fale, Chase Owens, and Sanada. Sanada has had an interesting journey through this tour. They were facing just 4 guys, which is Taichi, Taka Michinoku, and Yuya Uemura. Sanada, early part of this tour, he would go in and try to hit a member of the opposing team. The opposing team member would duck, and he would nail the member of Bullet Club. He would hit a teammate. Oopsie. And everybody would kind of be looking cross-eyed at him a little bit, like, giving him the side eye, like, was that intentional, or did he, And so everyone was suspicious of him. Then they had a couple of brawls that went all over the building that he was supremely uninterested in. And I'm not talking about Sanada being lazy. I'm saying this was the story, that Sanada didn't want to get his hands dirty in this big war with House of Torture. So while Gabe Kidd and Drilla Maloney and even Finlay and even Chase and Fale are fighting kind of all over the building, Sanada was holding headlocks and walking around a lot, just not getting too physically involved. And again, everyone's kind of giving them the side eyes, like, how in are you exactly? Or are you going to put a knife in my back at any moment?
He did his best Honky Tonk Man impression.
He did his best. And he, of course, had the cheap shot on Uemura after Uemura's tournament loss. So he's still a jerk. We know that. Certainly not a babyface in the way that maybe Maloney and Kidd are becoming. In this match, he was still playing it a little nonchalant. So in this one, though, Owens ended up beating Taka Michinoku. Then there was a post-match beatdown. They were pounding him down. Sanada ended up giving Uemura a low blow. They hold him up. They tease the guitar shot. He's got that cheap guitar that he never plays. He's about to wind up and hit it when Yoshihashi, Tomohiro Ishii, Desperado, and Tanahashi all run in to make the save. And in case you're ever wondering who wins the foot race among those 4 men, Yoshihashi, the first to get to the ring. I would have had my money on Desperado.
If he doesn't concuss himself.
Hey, now that was a long time ago.
I know, right there.
So anyway, they make the save. So you got all these members of Hontai in the ring right there. And afterwards, Tanahashi offered a handshake to Uemura, and he got it. Then to Taichi. And then Taichi and Desperado hugged. Tanahashi and Taichi then shook hands. That was actually after the Desperado hug. But of course, those 2 were in Suzuki-gun, right? Even Tomohiro Ishii, the Iceman himself, he shakes hands with everyone. And it apparently just 4 guys have been absorbed into Hontai. So that's Chaos, just 4 guys, and GBH all absorbed flat out into Hontai. And Taichi, Uemura, and Taka, and I guess Doki, whenever he comes back from his injuries, will be part of this new babyface wall now. Like all these groups that were babyfaces starting to unite. Tanahashi's starting to get them all together, put them behind Hirooki Goto, saying, here's your leader. This is how we survive in this environment. We're going to build a babyface wall. Now there's 20 of us, it seems like. And we won't keep coming out on the losing end against this. I guess that's the story here, is that we're going to build a united front.
Yeah. This cannot last. Unsustainable. I enjoyed the joining at the end. Like it. You got Taichi kind of wrapping up that Sabre Jr. little angle a couple days ago. Then you have this, and it feels like a fresh start for a lot of guys because this just 5 guys thing ain't working out. Although it's interesting that Doki and Desperado are going to be in the same stable together, potentially.
Well, but they had a lot. Yes, they were rivals more than they were enemies. Yeah, they respected the hell out of each other. So the reason they were having that match and so excited about that match at the Dome was because they liked each other, respected each other enough that they wanted to put on a barn burner. And of course, that injury happened.
Did you listen to the English commentary on this one?
Yeah.
Did you get earwormed by that little ditty by Chris Charlton? Just eight guys. They're all in Hontai.
I want to start a GoFundMe for him to stop doing that.
I laughed. I'm like, good for you, buddy. You managed to pull that one off.
Who's the better singer, he or Nikolai Volkov?
Probably neither. I choose neither. Nor am I a very good singer, but
no, yeah, I'm not joining the competition.
The enjoyment of Chris Charlton ad hocing those lyrics out of nowhere was made me get a good laugh after a pretty feel good moment of the unification of the babyface front, and I like Yuya Uemura getting positioned as the top like young guy babyface for all of Hontai. I really like that.
Yeah, we're seeing more comparisons with Tanahashi to Uemura as we go along. So
I think it bears bad news for where Shota's going.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. And Colin mentions that's not the first time he's done it either. No, yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Not the first time. After that, we had a non-title six-man tag match, which was an important note there. Bullet Club War Dogs is Drill Maloney, Gabe Kidd, and Taichi Ishimori facing the House of Torture, who are also the current Never Openweight six-man tag champions. Yujiro Takahashi, Sho, and Ren Narita.
Did you miss a match?
Yep, sure did. And that was because there was nothing to it. It was LIJ and United Empire. This was Bushi, Hiromu, and Naito against Callum Newman, Jacob Austin Young, and Jeff Cobb. There was absolutely nothing to this match. Hiromu beat Young. This is all about Cobb and Newman wanting a title shot and challenging him. So basically, LIJ beat the challengers, or not the challengers, the guy that's teaming with the challengers. And then the guys that lost the match said they wanted a title shot, and Hiromu said yes. There you go.
I thought we'd spend a minute talking about this match, and you greatly exceeded my expectations.
Is there anything to add?
No, not really. Like, there's a tag match at Secure Genesis probably happening out of this. It was unremarkable, and the right guy won and the right guy lost.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, of course, now they had been talking about it throughout the tour that they kind of wanted the tag team title match. But in pure wrestling logic, we had to wait until Hiromu Takahashi came back to action and appeared in front of the crowd before he and Naito could discuss this, because they don't have each other's phone numbers and they can't talk in the locker room at any point. So, all this stuff about, well, we have to find out what Hiromu thinks about this. Like Naito couldn't have texted him after Cobb and Newman mentioned it the first time. But that's wrestling logic. I remember one time, Jeremy, this always cracked me up, that they were doing this ambiguous thing of which side is Triple H on in a storyline. Mm-hmm. With Stephanie, and they talked to Stephanie or something, and she says, I don't know where his head is. And I'm just like, you haven't talked to him all week? You're married to him. Like, is he talking to his kids? Like, what in the world are you talking about? You haven't talked to him since last week? He hasn't talked to his children? He hasn't been in any
If I haven't talked to my wife in like 4 hours, I get a little worried. You know what I mean? Like, there's a... Yeah.
That's wrestling logic, though. You have not in the locker room. You have to be out in front of the crowd. Then you can talk to each other, and then it counts. It's what was the sitcom thing, right? Where the two guys in the sitcom, they walk into the living room and they just said, "Boy, that was a good movie, wasn't it?" So, the hell did you talk about on the way home?
Your logic is infallible.
Thank you.
But I will tell you, I was a little sad that we went over a minute talking about this match.
No, well, I went sidetracked on you.
Content, baby, content.
Non-title six-man. Can we talk about this now?
Please do.
Maloney, Kidd, and Ishimori against Narita, Sho, and Yujiro. So this was a fairly decisive butt whipping, basically. From throughout this tour, these two teams had fought their way to double countouts. Double countout after double countout. And Kid was exasperated because the match would never really get in the ring, and they would just fight all over the building. Everybody would get their close-up pictures of these guys, and then the referee would just get fed up, count them all out, and that would be the end of it. And some of them were pretty entertaining versions of that. You know, they do that all right. Narita's getting good at fighting in the crowd. He really is. And Kid, of course, is always pretty captivating. I've noticed this, though, Jeremy, and it's something that New Japan, I'm sure, has noted as well. In the arenas, they have the screen. That is probably a projector screen or something like that. And they put the next match up. As soon as the guys kind of get back to the locker room, the music stops from the one match. They put up a little graphic of the next match. Every time Kid comes up on that screen, there's a ooh type of thing in the crowd. The people are excited about the Kid match. Even if it's an undercard trios match, when they see Gabe Kidd, there's a little murmur in the crowd that the other guys on the card don't get. To me, that tells me that this guy is at least one of the reasons those people are there. Because there's this whole little recognition. It's like, oh, it's a Kid match. This is it. This is what, here we go type of thing. And he's just seeming to land just right with these people. There's something special going on with Gabe Kidd, and we've been saying it for weeks. But that was just another thing that I noticed time after time this week. Even in an undercard trios match, it's not going to go anywhere. Oh, Kid's coming.
The audience relationship with Kid is unique. And I don't know if it's going to sustain forever. If he leaves, I don't know if he's going to always be like, welcome back. Because it just feels like he's one of their guys, like he bleeds the cerulean blue. And if that changes, or if they're, this does seem tenuous. It doesn't seem temporary, though.
Yeah.
If there's a difference between those two.
Yeah.
So I think they have a good idea of what they need to do with this guy, and he is pure babyface. That promo at the end by Drew and Maloney, where this guy is a babyface too. Taichi was like, sure, yeah, whatever. I'm with you guys. There's no particular compelling thing that I'm convinced that he's with them. To the level that he is, other than yeah, I'm wearing the shirt, I'm a Bulldog Bulldog. And Sakura Genesis is one of those shows that have been known to expel members of Bullet Club in the past, and
indeed
one of these things. So there is a lot of possibilities. Not saying that anything is, even though the War Dogs came off looking exceptionally strong in trying to challenge for gold. I don't necessarily think that they're going to walk away with gold when all is said and done.
The match here finally had a finish, and it was, like I mentioned, pretty much a butt whipping. Kid went nuts on Narita. Maloney hit the Drillakilla on, Sho, and beat him. Ishimori beat up Sho quite a bit. Yujiro didn't get too much in the way. And so
they all beat the crap out of Sho at the end. They isolated him in the ring, and they all basically gave their finishers to him.
So this was all about finally getting that decisive finish so that the War Dogs could challenge for the titles. And so there will be a title match. So set up something with higher stakes later. So that's probably coming. We assume it's Sakura Genesis. We don't know. By the time this comes out as a podcast, we may have heard some of the matches for Sakura Genesis. When we went on the air here live,
we're about 4 hours away from getting an announcement.
It's awfully early in Tokyo as we speak right now. But if you hear this later as a podcast, some of these things might have already been announced. So that was the 6-man tag. Then we had another tag match, and this was Shingo Takagi and Yota Tsuji facing the House of Torture. That was Evil and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. This is another match that was basically here to set up something later, and Tsuji's knee took a bit of a beating during the match, but he ended up winning it with the Gene Blast on Kanemaru. Evil attacked him afterwards, laid him out. So that is all a part of the heat building for the global title match that is coming between Tsuji and Evil.
How excited are you between Tsuji and Evil? Scale 1 to 10.
6, I think 7 or something like that. He might win it. Evil might win it for one thing. He tends to win these things when you think, oh no, this is going to be a loss for him. He tends to win them. The story with Evil is Finlay eventually, to me, and I think that's more the War Dogs HOT thing is more interesting to me than this. So I don't know where it's going. He might get the global title, and that could be the thing, but I'm not sure. I'll think about it as we get closer to it. But as a match, it'll be fine because Evil's a good wrestler. There'll be shenanigans that'll take it down a notch or two, probably. But it's going to be the global title match with Evil in it, which means it's going to be a House of Torture match.
So, when Evil became House of Torture, he came in House of Fire, won the IWGP title, and then summarily lost it. And then he's, gone down the card a little bit. And, being in the global title picture is kind of an elevation for him when you think about it, because he was, feuding with Tanahashi and kind of doing tag and 6-man, never title. And they're like, Yota Tsuji inevitably should be going over this guy. And I don't think they should be taking too long a time, because we got this show. Then we got it's not Power Struggle, but Duntaku in May?
Duntaku is in May, yes.
And then we're going to Dominion. So the feuding pattern of these guys, either Yoda's feuding with Evil for a while, or it's a one and done match. And I'm more inclined to think that it's a one and done match than I am that Yoda is going to be dancing with Evil for an extended period of time. I am hoping that it won't be for an extended period of time.
Yeah, we've said that before about Evil, and then he wins a damn belt. So that's what I'm worried about.
I know. But, Yota Tsuji shouldn't be losing this belt right away. And
I agree.
Be losing it to Evil.
I agree 100%. I'm just saying what they've done with us with Evil for a while.
I'm with you.
Next, we had a trios match. This was Desperado, Goto, and Oleg Boltin. They took on Hartley Jackson, Ryo Haoiwa, and Zack Sabre Jr. It was 10 minutes and 20 seconds. It was well wrestled, but there wasn't much storyline to this one. Goto hits the GTR on Jackson, and that was it. Any other thoughts on this match?
I tremendously loved it when Desperado and Zack Sabre Jr. got in the ring with each other.
Yeah.
That was like 2 minutes of yes, please. Just great stuff. I was surprised to see this match, but it's the only thing that you can do with these guys when they're building up other matches that they're not going to be involved with going forward. Do you think Zack Sabre Jr. is even going to be on the Concurrent Genesis show? What is he?
Good question. I don't really see, unless it's like an underneath trios. Right now it looks like it would be the first half of the show.
He's he's spending a bunch of time in GCW and doing a couple of garbage matches in the middle of April. Yeah, he's doing 1,000% doing some GCW stuff or whatever. He is doing the minor league stuff in the States in the middle of April. And then,
Desperado just did Barb Sasaki's 25th anniversary Crazy Fest, where he and Jun Kasai and somebody else cut themselves to ribbons for the
Desperado's already got a match on the 4th.
Yeah. There's the Sakura Genesis. There's Junior Genesis on April the 4th. That's a Korakuen Hall where the junior heavyweights take the stage, and then Genesis proper on the 5th. That's going to be from Sumo Hall. All right. Well, anyway, Goto then sat down the Japanese announce desk straight from the ring. Didn't even go back to the dressing room because he wanted to get a look at who his next opponent was going to be. So he and Toru Yano handled the commentary for the main event, which was David Finlay and Shota Umino. It went 27 minutes, 58 seconds. This match was great. I loved it. Chris Charlton talked about how these two are walking a bit close to parallel paths, really, in that they are both considered Nepo babies by some of them, by some. David Finlay, of course, his father, Fit. And then Shota Umino, of course, with Red Shoes. And both had to carry that not good enough for their spot baggage. I think Finlay is further ahead in overcoming that, but he also had a bit of a head start there. But he's done a great job as the Bullet Club leader, and I think people do take David Finlay seriously now. But of course, we had a long period where everyone was just like, this is not the leader of Bullet Club. No. Meanwhile, Shota Umino, of course, like, this is not the number one baby face in the company. No. They both kind of had to deal with that perception. They're in very different lanes, but parallel tracks. I thought that was a really interesting point from Chris. And fans were divided. Both of them had their contingents in this one. There were plenty of people wanting Finlay to win. Plenty of people wanted Shota to win. And their key moves, Jeremy, I thought the second chapter, that Northern Lights bomb, and both the Overkill and the Oblivion lend themselves to being countered into one another.
Yes.
If you get out of one, you're kind of in position to set up your move. They did that very well throughout this match.
They managed to do a lot of chain wrestling through that, where like those moves would just go one into the other, and that was the strength of the match, in all honesty, is that these guys have great chemistry with each other. They're friends in real life. Like, the photos are all over the internet of how much these two like care about each other. And they were willing to go lay it in and really just get physical with each other. So that was also really, really good. I think the moment for me that really popped me from enjoying the match to like, oh, this is really good, and like the audience reacted the same way, was when Shota hit the knee.
Oh my goodness. The best knee, man. He had the running knee, and Finlay went flying into this thing. So Finlay ran at him. Shota came out of the corner with the running knee. Finlay was sprinting at him. Finlay sold this so great. He absolutely sold it brilliantly. It popped me on the couch. I was oh my God.
Like the impact, it's one of those really great wrestling moments that you're just like, oh, you need to do that more often. Like, that will get you over.
That was great. And then there was a lariat for 2, second chapter from Umino. Umino gets a lot of force on his lariats. It's a lot of impact. So they look terrific for near falls. Second chapter was reversed into Oblivion. For 2, and then they kept wrestling, but then there was another second chapter. That one was reversed into Overkill, and Overkill is the one that they are, the kind of a similar to a GTS, and so he gets the knee as the guy's coming down, and they have been protecting that heavily. He did get the win on that, and then afterwards, I thought this was interesting too, and something they made a point of. Finlay talked to him afterwards, staring him down. He said, "You want to win? You got to do it my way." And Umino nodded a little bit before rolling out of the ring. So I think he is taking those words to heart, perhaps. Anyway, afterwards, we had the stare down.
Killer.
We had the stare down with Goto afterwards. And now we know Sakura Genesis main event at Sumo Hall, David Finlay, Hirooki, Goto.
So you want to know if New Japan is tipping their hands at all for the show?
What you got?
Sakura Genesis? Announced for C2E2 in Chicago will be David Finlay, Tetsuya Naito, Rocky Romero, Zack Sabre Jr., Gabe Kidd, and Hiroshi Tanahashi. And then, in another tweet, they announced that Hirooki Goto will be there.
I see. Okay. Well, yeah, it could be an interesting detail there, couldn't it? We'll see if that has any meaning.
The chances of David Finlay winning the title from Hirooki Goto on April 6th are very, very good.
Yeah.
The happening, I feel very strongly, but there's enough doubt and enough other things going on in the New Japan kind of world that I am not necessarily sure that it's a sure thing.
I think that this whole thing with Goto has gone better than they thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they thought it was going to go well, but I think this is going better than they imagined it would with some of the attendances we're seeing and some of the crowds that he's drawing. And so the temptation would be to say, you got to ride the Goto train while he's selling tickets and things. New Japan is not a company that changes on a whim or deviates from plans easily, not impossibly, but they tend to change plans due to injury a lot more than on the strength of a few strong drawing events. So I'm curious as well. Perhaps they will decide, well, Goto's hot and we're going to stick with Goto.
Mm-hmm.
But I mentioned just all signs to me, Jeremy, is like if David stays with the company and he's healthy, he's going to be the guy. And it will, those are
they've exhibited a huge amount of patience up to this point.
Yeah.
Not belting him up to this point.
Right. And they gave us his run with the global title to get us used to him being a champion before you put the big one on him. So I'm still leaning toward him winning this thing at Genesis. We will see as the event approaches if I change my mind. But it feels like that. I thought he would be the champion going into G1, and the prize of the G1 would be to get the shot at Finlay.
Yeah.
And I still feel like that's how it happened. Now, doesn't have to be at Genesis. Like you mentioned, there is still Dontaku. There is still Dominion. There are, we have more chapters to go.
Like Finlay could win the title after the G1.
I really don't want. I wish
what I'm saying though. Like
I wish New Japan would treat Forbidden Door as the exhibition it really is, and not make it a big.
I think everybody's treating it like the exhibition that it is. But
I'm just saying, like
I agree with you, but we're also seeing a post G1 landscape in New Japan Pro Wrestling where they're doing weird shit, where they're not necessarily doing a G1 winner faces the guy at Wrestle Kingdom anymore. It hasn't quite been that way for the last couple of years. So you can't visualize that this is going to be like, we're going from point A to point B and it's just going to be like that. Yeah. And so that's the only part that I'm just kind of like, I think we're going to go closer to now because I think Finlay's probably going to need a couple of title defenses going into the G1 that make him look pretty strong.
Yeah. That's a good point because he's going to have to take losses in the G1 because he's not going to win the thing if you're the champion. So you need to get used to seeing him win some of these big matches before you have him lose some. So
there's a whole blueprint to this where you kind of have to time it out. And to get to him being considered the guy in New Japan, he can't just win the title. He's got to defend it convincingly a couple of times.
Looking ahead, we have some time off because there are no shows on NJPW World listed until April 4th at Korakuen Hall with the junior heavyweight titles headlining at Junior Genesis. There will be Road 2 shows between here and now. Currently, those are not listed as being broadcast on NJPW World. So while there will be shows, which I think start in the 28th or 29th or 20th, in about a week, they aren't going to be
an anxiety attack about what our content is going to be next week.
No, I think we'll have plenty to talk about when they reveal some of these cards.
Plenty to preview.
And therefore, we won't have a whole lot of stuff. We have a little bit of time before we watch anything else right now that shows up on World. But what we have is Kosei Fujita and Robbie Eagles defending the junior tag team titles against Robbie X and Taiji Ishimori. And then we have Desperado versus Clark Connors in a hardcore match for the junior heavyweight title. That's April 4th at Korakuen Hall. And like I mentioned, if you're listening to this as a podcast, you may have already heard about some other matches. As we're doing the shows live, this is all that's been announced so far. We have pretty strong indications. Tsuji versus Evil, the never openweight 6-man titles, the tag team titles with Cobb and Newman against LIJ. Almost sure that those are going to be announced for Genesis, but they have not been announced yet. April 5th, Sumo Hall, Sakura Genesis. We know Hirooki Goto versus David Finlay for that title. So that is what we know as of right now. And
you could assume some others, Great O'Con and ELP.
Yeah.
Yota Tsuji and Evil. The never 6-man titles are going to be up for more than likely. You got Naito and Hiromu and Cobb and Callum Newman. You've got 6 or 7 matches. You're probably going to have another Tanahashi match somewhere on there. One of those guys that just joined Hontai. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like Taichi and him having a singles match out of what we just got. The card for the most part, is already there. They just need to finalize exactly what they're going to do.
And of course, a lot of that goes to the kayfabe. They can't announce it until this is over with, and then theoretically, the championship committee knows what to do and all that kind of stuff. So we will certainly know next week. And and the only other news really this week, Jeremy, is the stuff about Loibe and Nakashima. We haven't heard anything else, just that they lost 2 different sets of tag team titles in a very short order. But I'm curious to see what they look like coming back, and if they are indeed coming back, it might be a good time for it.
Are they still going to be Youngblood?
Yes, I mean they are right now, but that doesn't mean they will be. The Sho and Yo were the Tempura boys before they came back, and then they made them what, Roppongi 3K with Rocky Romero. So most of the time there is some kind of the
That's
Tempura
not
boys.
racist.
It's well, I mean, wait, what?
It's fine. Move on.
Okada, for God's sakes, was named after a character from
Yes. There's a rich history on infantilizing Asian wrestlers in Western world. Moving on.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I'd expect them to be repackaged a little bit. Yeah, and it's, the only question is, what faction they come into, but. And they might not even be coming back. It might just be a coincidence. I don't know. But it does feel like they've been gone long enough that they could come back.
They should join United Empire.
You think?
That'd be fun.
Come back with
underneath Great O'Khan. Yeah.
Yeah, you could talk me into that. They could use a regular tag team.
They could.
Yeah. Heavyweight tag team.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Nakashima's a big boy. He reminds me of Makabe a little bit, like just that kind of almost a caveman on that caveman type of approach to his wrestling, just straightforward. I'll crash into a wall head first. Yeah,
boy, gonna crush you.
A little bit, a little bit like that. The Unchained Gorilla, and for Makabe, and then for when you look at Nakashima, just his facial expressions and the way he wrestles and things, not terribly far off of that.
No, not at all. All right, what else we got? You want to wrap this thing up and we'll be back next week?
Yeah, so next week we will go over any announcements that have been made for the Genesis show and any more news we hear. Of course, any more news we hear about some of the things regarding arrivals, departures. I mean, all that stuff's kind of been in the zeitgeist a little bit. Nothing of any substance to talk about since the last time we were here on the program. But if anything comes up,
get somebody to come on and we'll just talk about New Japan in general.
There you go. Colin's asking, am I watching the sumo? I always watch the sumo. And do I think Takayasu will win it? It reminds me a little bit about what happened with Kim Bozan in the last tournament. And Jeremy, this is a guy that's lower ranked than the people who usually win this tournament. He's on a hell of a run. He's up toward the top of the standings. The issue is, as the tournament goes on, sumo books only one day ahead. So you know who you're wrestling on one day, you know who you're wrestling tomorrow, but not further than that. And they book the matchups based on the standings. The issue when you're a Takayasu and you're lower ranked Magashira, which is the rank and file of sumo, they start putting you up against the other guys at the top of the tournament, which tend to be guys like Onosato and Hoshoryu, the new Yokozuna, had to drop out because he wasn't doing so well. The competition gets tougher, and that's tends to be where these guys start to fall off and just kind of miss. So I think that might be what's going on with Takayasu. I would love to see it because I like him, but it's going to be a difficult road that last half of the second week. So, and there you go. Colin says he's facing Takeru Fuji tomorrow. All he did was become the first guy in 100+ years to win a tournament in his first tournament at the top level. So it's going to get tough.
I want to thank everybody in the chat today. Any more comments out there that we want to highlight before we get out of here?
Any other questions around that? We're happy to answer them. Don't forget, of course,
45 seconds.
Don't forget, of course, Power Bombshells back at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. Dynamite Show, the wrap this past week. Sam from Power Bombshells guested with Keela, and you can always catch the Dynamite Show after Dynamite. There's the 5-Star Joshi Show with Scott Edwards. He's got the Joshi Informer newsletter. Look that up. That's been fabulous. It's been a real help to me in following the wide world of Joshi wrestling. So Fight Game
We're not
Media
going to talk
content.
about how well we did on the Sport of Pro Wrestling tournament, but Scotty Wrestling did tremendously well.
Oh yeah, and Wrestle LULZ is here. He says thoughts on the WrestleMania weekend pro wrestling shows build up in Vegas. Jeremy, there are going to be a lot of Japanese promotions in Las Vegas that week, and I think
am bummed that I'm going to miss Gabe Kidd at Bloodsport on Thursday because I'm flying in on Thursday night and been put to work by the F4W crew to do shit for them, and I'm going to also miss the Stardom show. I wanted to go to the Stardom show on noon, but I have to work the Q&A for Brian and Dave. And it was like, okay, it's part of the reason I got brought out there. So I had to miss that. So my hope is to hit up that Dragon Gate USA show on Friday night. Yeah. I am not the biggest fan of GCW. I went to one of the shows at Hoffman Estates where I saw Shane Mercer throw Marco Stunt 25 feet out of the ring, and the man landed on his back and proceeded to have maybe 3 more wrestling matches and then retire. And it's a little too real for me, and that's the kind of thing that I am not in love with. So yeah, I'm not going to be able to make a Stardom show. I want to go to that Dragon Gate show on the Friday night. And then
I would say TJPW is probably going to put together something pretty entertaining, and I think Marvelous is there also, which is a pretty.
I don't think I'm going to be there in time. I think they're on Thursday, and the Saturday shows are not really my cup of tea either. So I'll be actually watching all of the content in a suite on the Vegas suite, just kind of hanging out with people.
Well, la-di-da. That's very nice. Yeah. Oh, and JCW is going to be doing a free Vegas show midnight on the 19th. There's a lot. There's a lot of cool stuff there. So, at Neonopolis too. Oh boy, that'll be a hell of an atmosphere. Neonopolis is an interesting place for that.
Was there a question about the mock thing?
Yeah, help us out with this if you would, please.
Did you see it?
Well, wait, just fill it in.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know what he's asking about?
Not specifically.
Okay. Sit back and relax here, kiddos. Last night on the AEW Dynamite show, there was
I didn't see it. I don't watch that. Yeah.
There was a street fight in which Adam Copeland and John Moxley got increasingly extreme with their match, to the point that Copeland brought out his black bat named Spike with very long nails all over the back of it. Well, you bring in something like that and it ends up on the ground, and then Adam Copeland gives John Moxley a vertical suplex in which he lands directly on the bat, and the nails go directly into his back. So much so that when John Moxley gets up, the bat is attached to his back still. And it is the first time in the entirety of me watching pro wrestling, and I've seen death matches with Jun Kasai and, the AR Fox and Homicide, 3 stages of death match and Lucha Underground. My friends, this is the first time I have ever seen flesh being torn from somebody's back as you are trying to remove the nails. Wheeler Yuta could not get the...
I've seen that.
Could not get the bat off of his back and had to give up. The ref then had to try, and to John Moxley's credit, he milked this for all it was worth.
Well, you better.
Walking around the ring, writhing in pain with a bat with just about 30 nails in his back, and eventually stopped bleeding.
What a dipshit.
I know that there's an audience for this, and I know that this is part of what makes AEW stand out.
Does it stand out anymore?
As the older I get, I don't.
All 1,500 people paid or into it.
They came out from Omaha, Nebraska. It was a very good show with very above average wrestling. This wasn't even the main event. It was the middle of the show. It was just a match. It may have been the match they wanted to have on the pay-per-view, and for political reasons, they were not able to have that match, is my understanding. With that said, this is a spot I never want to see again.
Yeah, well, you got to do something special when you got mediocrity like Cope in there with them too. So it's AEW is just I'm over it
It's
for
not
now.
your cup of tea.
It's the senior tour. I mean, they've got guys that Cope and Christian weren't main event. I understand that Copeland was a main eventer in WWE, but it didn't feel like he was, and it was a crappy era for WWE when he was on top, and it was a poor quality era. He was a bad main eventer. And he's tone deaf when it comes to his work and his promos and things. He doesn't know when to it's too much to get into. He has no idea when to turn it up and turn it down. He's stuff that should piss him off doesn't, and stuff. And then he just comes off like he's the angriest person in the world over something that's nothing. And so he's tone deaf as to his levels. He's never been a main eventer. Christian's never had a day of a main eventer in his life. Maybe he was with TNA, a half-ass promotion at the time that he was the champion of it or whatever. These guys aren't main eventers. I know Tony Khan likes them, but for the love of God, I mean, come on. And even when they had whatever prime they may have had when they were falling off of ladders and through tables, that was 20-some years ago. Stop this crap. I mean, for God's sakes, like there's so much talent on that roster, and you're dragging 50-year-olds out and having them fall into glass and barb. Just stop this crap, for God's sakes. And Moxley, he still has that, what was it, CZW in him and stuff like that, where he thinks that this is what you got to do to get over. And for God's sakes, look at the evidence, for God's sakes. The ratings are down. The attendance is down. No one goes to Dynamite. It's just, what's left of that company? It's just silliness now.
I will say, after you cut that hell of a promo about AEW, that I do the reviews of the pay-per-views on the Boom with Kevin Ely. And so we check in every month. And so I do the kind of report card every month about how AEW is. And I have not been entirely enthused with AEW probably since last year World Cup. Not this past year, but when the Samoa Joe won the title. And just the entire year just seemed like they were making mistakes left and right. And we are in a period where I feel like they're trying to right the ship. They're finally leading into Mercedes and Athena. Will Ospreay is headed in a direction to challenge for the world title at All In. We're looking at Omega and Okada having a match again. Copeland and Christian are probably going to end up in a feud against FTR, which is 100% the level of matches that they should be having, like tag matches. Eventually just get them the tag titles together, have that final run, whatever. Just be done with it. Put them outside of the main event.
Yeah.
Like, give them a place of prominence, have people enjoy it. Be their version of the Hardy Boys over in WWE right now and TNA. Like, just give people something that they're going to enjoy with these two guys going to the twilight of their career. There are things that you can do. They're getting back into like a fan service. Like, this is what the company is here to do. It was in free fall for a while. I feel like it is entirely possible that the ship is righted in 6 months. But it could also go completely off the rails again too.
Yeah, it's just so nonsensical in a lot of ways with that stuff. It's just I'm exhausted by it. So, and it's a tough go when WWE is hitting and things aren't perfect in WWE by any stretch of the imagination. But when you see them drawing 10,000 people for Raw and then 6 times the crowd that AEW is getting, and then those people at AEW are just sitting there mostly silently while all this stuff goes on. It's just it speaks volumes that things just aren't in the right direction there at all. So
I think if Mercedes and Athena have a match together, Athena wins that match.
Well, we'll see. Mercedes,
they need to get the TBS title off of her, man. They got to get it off of her and get her into the world title.
She does not do a lot of losing.
No, but neither does Athena.
True. Yeah, that is true. But yeah. All right. Well, anyway, there's a lot going on. We will cover it when we come back here next week. So after my rant now, I need to go and and lay down a little
And
while.
soothe that lozenge throat.
Finish that TJPW show. That's what I'm looking forward to. All right. So anyway, we will be back here at our regular time next week. We want to thank everybody who have joined us here live. Everyone who listens to us as a podcast, we're very grateful for your time. So for Jeremy Finestone, I'm Stephen Conway. This has been Speaking of Strong Style, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Bye.